this meeting of the Board of Trustees to order at, like you said, 6:07. All trustees are here. The meeting's been properly noticed, I assume?
Yes, correct.
Thank you. We have an agenda here. Let's just go over the agenda before we get started. The first thing we're going to be doing is deliberation on the interview questions.
Do you want the job?
Basically,
Can you start tomorrow?
Deliberation on
so
questions.
yeah, this is the time for you to and the board to talk as far as what questions in particular.
Okay,
you would
that's the
like to inquire
that's
about.
the 6 to 6:30 time frame. Okay, all right. And then 6:30 we have our first, 7:15 we have our second, and 8 o'clock we have our third. And we do know that the first one is here already, so not sure where we'll be with the other ones. They're both driving up from Chicago.
Oh my God, that's gonna work. Not taking the train?
Both said they'll be here, and I contacted them a few hours ago.
Yeah. Yeah, one of them was actually coming from Florida to Chicago and then driving up.
Oh.
And then after we're finished with the third one, we'll be going into closed session to look at two things. One will be the possible consideration for the consulting firm that we're going to pick. And then we're also going to be discussing item 8B, looking at, let's see if I updated here. Yeah, what's going to be happening between the time that village manager Chris Swartz leaves and until the new manager is hired. So we'll be discussing possibilities of an interim manager, but it'll be a deliberation amongst the board members. So with that, let's go to item 4, and I think I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Sure.
To tell us what.
So basically, I let each recruiting firm know that they have 15 minutes to give a presentation to you, and then we have about 15 minutes for Q&A. As far as questions you want to inquire about, if you want to ask similar questions to each of the three, you can do that. If you look through the proposals and there's certain questions that you see that you would like to inquire to some and not others, that's fine too. This is kind of a time that any of you want to strategize as far as what questions you would like to ask the firms. Now's the time to do so. Just know that we have 15 minutes to do that. Once those 15 minutes are up, we then have another 15 minutes to discuss before the next firm comes in. So think of it as 3 15 increments where there's a presentation, Q&A, discussion, and then we move on to the next.
And that'd be discussion without the
firm present, right?
Firm president.
And I've talked with each of the firms, and they have agreed that when one presentation's going on, if they're here early, they will wait their turn, not only after the presentation Q&A, but also after our discussion. So there's an understanding of that.
You might mention about that we are open.
Yep, this is because it's a public meeting. I am video recording.
Do we each have a set of each of these?
Yes, I'll get to that in a second. We are videotaping because it is a public village board meeting. One thing to just let you know, in case we do talk about, like offers as far as like how much someone is proposing for a dollar amount in that, we may just want to post the public video next week after we approve the contract. So just from one point perspective on that, but I wanted to make sure that we do videotape it because it is a public meeting with the village board, and that's what we have been doing as of recently. What do you have copies of in front of you? I copied an agenda, so each of you have a printed agenda. Each of you individually have a one-page summary sheet of all 5 of the proposals. I've separated the 3 that we have in front of you tonight, but I wanted to make sure that you could see a summary of the other 2 that submitted. And then I have, to just save some paper, each, at your stations, the two of you will share the printed proposals of the three that we have in front of you tonight. If you have your iPads with you, you can also access the Dropbox. We have a separate folder created for village manager recruitment that I made sure that is updated for tonight. So if any of you would rather access the materials that way, that is also provided.
I've got extra government, HR, USA. Did you have all three? You have all three, Dan? Okay.
We're sharing.
Yeah, we are too, but we just have a.
The ones that stuck.
Procedural question, are we entering strictly for the recruitment firm, or are we looking at one of the recruitment firms to also fill in as a potential interim? They know they do multiple things.
We are not looking for a recruitment firm to fill in as an intern. We may be looking to the recruitment firm to help us find an intern.
Just because it lists in some of these that they actually can provide interim services. Okay, so we're not.
Well, when we pick a firm, if they offer that, they'll let us know, but we're going to be asking them to.
That could be one of your interview questions,
Yeah, that's a
though,
good interview question.
as far as how they could go about the interim process.
Okay.
Now, one thing I'll mention is you said that we don't have common questions for this. This is different from when we're actually interviewing candidates for the job, where we will have common questions. So we'll make sure that we're asking all the same thing. That type of procedure doesn't hold up, and it's not necessary for what we're doing here. We're just trying to pick what we feel the best fit for us would be for a recruitment firm.
I think one of the things that you can definitely dive into a little bit more is making sure that they have an understanding of the process that we would like to use. We kind of gave them a general time frame of what we were looking for. One of the things to probably inquire about is when we put the RFP out, that was we were using the assumption of Chris's original retirement date of October. So each of the three have an understanding that Chris, and they know that Chris has moved it. And I've asked each of them to provide any updates to their timeline, knowing Chris's timeline. So they should be able to hit on that. But in case they don't, or if you need clarification, that might be one question that you want to inquire about as far as their adjusted timeline, knowing with the recent update with Chris's retirement.
I have not had a chance to study these in detail. Can you suggest some areas where they differ, given that that might be an area that we might want to ask a question about?
Sure. That's a good question. The cost for the primary services certainly is a slight adjustment there. One of the things you can certainly inquire about when it comes to the cost is when they are doing the recruitment for advertising. I think there's going to be a difference in how they go about that. A lot of them will probably use the associations that we're a part of, like ICMA, WCMA are very common ones when it comes to administrator or manager recruitments. But someone like GovHR, they may use a more national or more national avenues. So I think that's one thing to inquire about is what particular resources will they utilize in order to accomplish advertising. For optional services, you'll see all three are willing to do a 360 eval. That was one of the things that we included in the RFP as an optional service that when a manager begins, usually their first 6 months in, usually firms will come and help do a first evaluation with the manager. So that's an optional service. But you'll see with like GovHR USA, they do what's called an assessment center, which is very different than, or an optional service that I don't think any of the other firms provided. So that might be a question you might want to ask about HR is to expand on the assessment center.
And why we might want to spend an extra $5K.
Another question is a guarantee. So some of the firms provided a guarantee that if you, in case you don't have a successful search, you know, what happens? Do they continue to provide services or are they done? Or what if you have a candidate that is hired in 3 to 6 months and he or she ends up leaving? You know, those are all parts of the guarantee. So that would be one other question that you may want to inquire about and have them clarify a little bit more with you is what happens in those circumstances. You'll see one of the firms tonight did, and you can see that in the proposal too, the specific language that they have for the guarantee, but you might want to ask that for the other 2 firms. Otherwise, the experience is going to be different between the other 3, and that might be, you know, something that you will really want to expand on as far as their, all have experience when it comes to local government. All the people you'll be talking with tonight have been managers in the past, and not just managers, but in the state here and in the Milwaukee area. But they have different experiences when it comes to doing executive searches. So that's one thing to inquire about, because they'll have different experiences there. And I think, you know, whether they have ample or not as much, there's pluses and minuses to both. But I think that would be one other thing that you can certainly inquire about. Does that help?
As we're going through our new budget process for purchasing, one of the things that we might want to consider doing after we wrap it up today is just writing a memo on what criteria we use to evaluate what were the overreaching criteria, especially if it's not a low bid. It's just a paragraph or 2, just put it in file. And I am a little concerned that we don't have any criteria. Like, can you suggest some of the most important things if we were developing criteria before we started the interviews? What would they be?
That's up for you to decide. I feel uncomfortable telling you what that criteria would be, but I mean, I would say, you know, everything that's on this spreadsheet is probably the main things that you want to emphasize and look at. As far as how you prioritize it, do you prioritize experience and cost? I think, you know, that might be something you want to talk about briefly before you begin, and that's also something that we can talk about as we go.
And that's something we can talk about right now, too.
But I would say if you're looking for the different criteria or the different areas that you need to consider, it's on the spreadsheet.
Thank you. Can you just summarize quickly how the 2 that didn't make it to tonight happened, so we know what criteria you looked at to say that
Oh, that's fair. Sure.
Best?
As far as spring study, it came up with they were the highest bid, and I'm pretty familiar with Springstead because when it comes to executive searches, they do a lot nationally, but specifically they do a lot in the Twin Cities area. And I was up in the Twin Cities area for over 3 years. They haven't done many here in the Milwaukee area, so I think their understanding of Shorewood as a community versus some of the others isn't as high, and just the fact that it's the highest cost. That was a reason. Also, both them and Public Administration Associates, to get their costs down, what they did for the first part of the interview, they put in their proposal was videotaping interviews. And when you videotape interviews, sometimes for candidates that aren't comfortable in front of a video camera, it can pose some problems for some candidates. And it's one of the things that, you know, when you know, I got a phone call from one about that, you know, I asked, well, at least put both options in the proposal so that you all can just, you know, decide if you want that or not. And in their proposal, they only had videotaping, and that was Public Administration Associates. So that was one thing that, you know, for the first step of the process to just deter, you know, to make a cut on candidates on just a videotaped interview instead of a traditional interview was certainly something that was slightly concerning. And I was hoping that they would at least have both options included in their proposals, and that was
And
not
they
the
didn't,
case.
they didn't justify why they didn't?
But that's just how they, well, I mean, well, for Springstead, it's because the person leading the search is actually in the Twin Cities. So I think that was to save on some travel costs for her. And then for Public Administration Associates, that's how they typically do all their searches.
Is that the only factor? I'm just wondering.
No, that's not the only one. You'll notice the three in front of you today are extremely familiar with Shorewood and the Milwaukee area. That's a big reason why.
It sounds like that was an overriding criteria, correct?
I would say so. I mean, because I'll tell you, Shorewood is the fourth community I've worked and been a part of. And there's some very unique things to Shorewood that makes it a very special place. And I think when we do this selection, you know, having a firm that understands that uniqueness about Shorewood is pretty important. I think Kevin Brunner was the contact. You know, he was the Whitewater administrator for a number of years, but you know, compared to the three contacts there in front of you tonight, I don't think he has the knowledge of Shorewood compared to the other three.
Does anybody else have questions? Yes.